Good morning. Welcome to Sustainable Leadership Live. I'm Lisa Danforth, your host, and today I have a dear friend, a colleague. I have hired her. She's amazing, Kelly Daniel, and we're going to be talking about really that job search. And I say we jump right into it, but Kelly, thank you so much for bringing all of your brilliance, all of your experience, which I do want to talk about. I'm going to back up for just a second and read your bio for a quick sec. Kelly is a content strategist in the midst of her third job search in 3 years, each one prompted by different circumstances. She works with major media companies to optimize the distribution of their content. She works with private clients to develop their narratives and write or produce their business content. And for herself and her company to uncover personal narratives about the job search or otherwise that are authentic, believable, and productive. And today we're here to talk about a new cohort that she's starting called the Job Search Support Squad. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I say let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about the squad that you're starting, this new cohort.
Yeah, so this is meant to be a peer coaching group. I go into it very clear on what I can and can't do. So I'm not an expert in hiring. I was a hiring manager in one job, so I can share anecdotal information. I've never worked in HR. I've never worked in recruiting. I can't tell you how to answer the questions necessarily. But what I can do is bring together people who are experiencing the same thing, going through the same struggle, give you a place where you don't feel like you're alone with this, where you know that there are other people who are getting to the end round and finding out they didn't get the job again, people who are sending out lots of applications and aren't hearing back, people who don't know what they want to do just yet, or don't know where they're going to go. And you're able to just create a space where it's safe to share those fears, celebrate wins, which is also important and huge, and share the things that I have developed over the last 3 years that have led to my third job search being my most relaxed, my happiest, my least stressful, my least frantic, which is counterintuitive. But
right. And I say, let's dig into that because I think not going alone, I think is so very important. Like you were saying, it just, the tools, the skills, the habits that you've been leaning into that makes this time, personal and professional, more productive, more creative. How did you start leaning into that? Because I think it's so hard. We can get stuck in a go, 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 gotta get out there mentality.
Yeah. So it's part of a natural evolution where I stayed with my first, not my first job. I advanced a few steps, but I stayed with my first company team for 12 years. So I never, and that was straight out of college. So I went from CNN to NBC and had an amazing time there and started to come to terms with the idea that I've done the things I want to do in TV news. And so now where do I look and how do I do that without what's the word? Like telling all of my current network, oh, I'm looking for work, right? So I had to figure out how to execute that job search very much on my own. And then from there, through a dear friend, found a contract opportunity at Meta. And then that did not extend and found myself searching again and feeling like it was never going to happen, that I had started this transition, but I didn't have enough to cement it. And what was I going to do? And that was, there was a lot of despair there when the rejections came in. And then the job came through. And then facing the mass layoffs at Meta, which was a much more collective experience for my team, for the people who I was working with, for the people who I'd worked with in the past there. And so going into this one knowing it's a bad time. in tech and in media. There's a lot of layoffs, there's a lot of uncertainty, but the job will come. I have credentials, I have things I can do, I have work I can do absent a major corporation, and I will find my way. It will happen again. And I benefited from the time off in the past. I am doing my best to enjoy the time off now.
So
Um,
very important, right? To really be able to lean into that.
yeah, and to stay balanced and um, realize I'm privileged to be able to weather, to have had separation pay and all sorts of things to help me carry me through some gaps and just forge ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Lori Blatt, who is here, a dear friend of mine. She said, I read a recent article that 1/3 of posted jobs are not real. Man, I have not heard that, Lori. Have you heard that, Kelly?
So I've heard,
That's crazy.
yeah, and I think the thing that I can speak to with my experience is that particularly this round, there's been a lot of roles that I started the process for that then were not um, ultimately going to be filled. So this time around, I'm not hearing so much, you came in second, but we only have one role. I'm hearing, we're closing this position for now because the company, and then ultimately months later, the company unfortunately does their own round of layoffs. I was in process with one company that it seemed like absolutely headed towards an offer, and then completely silent, no update, no last round. Now, former journalist, I have my friends everywhere. I have created connections, and so I was able to find out from somebody inside the company that they're on a soft hiring freeze. And so it's also those things as I either work with companies that are completely transparent with me and say, we're hitting pause here and it's not about you. We hope to talk with you again when we get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Or having contacts and being able to understand those things without the transparency that, so I'm frustrated by that. I would rather be working and cashing paychecks and moving forward. But those companies not completing the process is not about me. And for every company that I do find that out about, how many of the applications that I send in that don't move forward or
Mm-hmm.
the processes that I don't hear that about, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I have to, as much as my instinct is to assume and write the story for myself that I am unhireable and that I'm never going to get one.
It's easy to write that story, I would imagine, when you're alone and when you're in the silo. I just want to give a shout out to Lori. She said it was the Wall Street Journal. Some companies are posting jobs to appear like they're going among other. Oh,
Yeah.
man, that just.
And there's companies that I know are leaving their jobs posted, even though they're not currently hiring.
To show that their growth. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about resilience, right? How did you start to really build that resilience, especially on your third job search, and be able to be productive? That I think is going to be key because that resilience piece is so important for us to consistently get out there.
So part of it for me is to define the wins for myself. So the ultimate win is getting the offer and having it be at a salary that both the company and I love, and that it has the right balance of work from home and in office and all of those things, however any person would define it for themselves. In between, I've had to define those wins for myself, right? So that not every rejection means that I haven't advanced.
So can I just jump in and how have you done that? Because it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole of I'm not hireable, this is never going to happen. What are some of the tools, the skills, the habits that you've leaned into that have helped you build that resiliency to continue in a pretty positive mindset?
So one huge one is seeing and reminding myself the contacts that I've built So there are jobs that I didn't get, but I almost got, and my network is bigger because of it. There are
Mhm.
people who I have reached out to or I have been introduced to as part of job hiring processes, and we're in contact all the time. And they want to help me, and they do help me. And so recognizing that,
Yeah,
seeing that progress, seeing that I'm in a better place, even though I don't have that job, I'm in a better place for the next one. Um, I
that's a
think
great.
huge for me has been for separating my identity from my job.
So hard.
Yeah.
We're taught. I mean, we're taught from a young age
Yeah.
to do
What
that, and
and
it's
and particularly here in this country, what do you do? Right?
right.
Is among the first questions we ask each other. I go to the barn. Like I go hang out with my horse. um, but seriously, right? There I have been able to see real progress in other parts of my life.
Mhm.
Um, I have animals who I love, who are thriving, who are like little rehab projects in some ways. And they're doing great. And and I would not have this time with them otherwise. There's something else. Oh, and one thing that has also been massive for me is to do something concrete, do something productive, separate from the job search.
Mm, I think that's huge, huge.
So for me, I've been helping at my barn and teaching beginner writing lessons. I see my students progress. I see them. Um, I see them accomplish things. I see how my instruction is able to unlock new abilities and concepts for them. And I celebrate those things. And I walk away from those long, tiring, scary, high risk days where I'm trying to keep, um, help people do complicated things on unpredictable, sometimes animals. Um, so it's not without stress or fatigue, but it's a huge thing to come away from that day and know, these kids had a great time. When
Mhm.
I was taking one lesson a week, that was the like absolute best hour of my week as an adult. And so knowing that I was part of that with them,
Mhm.
I walk away with that sense of accomplishment. So I've encouraged people to find their concrete thing, like go build something,
Mhm.
go make a bench, go do something that you can see that you did it and it's done and you accomplished it. And you're not waiting for someone to email you back and say, hey, here's the feedback on the interview.
Mhm.
Do something that's yours.
So I want to jump in and talk about what you are building, right? The job search support squad. Now you said in the beginning you're, not an expert in this, but it's really about creating a safe space where you can genuinely, authentically show up, share your wins and whatnot. So what are you building there? And just share a bit about it if you wouldn't mind, just so people can learn what you're up to, be able to reach out to you to learn more, because like we've been talking, going it alone is much harder than really building a community around you to support you.
Absolutely. So it's a small group of people who are looking for work, who've been laid off or otherwise between jobs and looking for work. And we will be, um, I have a chat going. We're going to meet weekly to come together and be able to talk about some of these things that I've been talking about, the ideas that I've been posting about on LinkedIn that have been connecting with people. I hear a lot, particularly privately from folks, like your posts are really meaningful and help me and make me feel
Mhm.
less like I'm alone in this search, which I think is just everything. It's made such a difference for me this time around to be able to talk about it, to have my friends and colleagues who are going through this as well. I participated in another group um, that has slightly different focus in terms of like being productive in your job search and really utilizing the avenues to find a job that will have the most return for you versus sending out 100 applications a day. And it was a very positive experience for me in terms of having a group of people who were going through the same thing, but weren't necessarily my closest contacts, who I am always very sensitive to. If I'm entering a job process or I'm advancing and they haven't had a win lately, I'm hesitant to, to
Right.
tell
Share.
that and share that. And so having a place to either share frustrations or celebrate wins with a group that is having the same experience, but is just a little more diverse in a number of ways, I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I know you were talking when we were in the green room about a group that you had joined where it was all about that accountability. How many times have you applied to? It's that drive, it's that push, which from my perspective, especially as a coach, that can sometimes have us stepping back, right? That accountability needs to be done in a way that's collaborative. So talk a little bit more about that if you would, because that's what I really want to drive home is you don't have to do this alone, and you don't have to have this 8-hour strategy. That we need to take the time to enjoy this time if we can a little bit.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that is unique about how I've gone about my job searches is to make sure that I'm capturing the time and realizing, all right, Kel, you didn't take a gap year. Here's your gap year, right? Here's your opportunity. Maybe I'm not traveling the world, but I'm doing things that I would not have otherwise had time to do. And so sharing that sort of outlook and how transformative it's been for me are core and different to this group than some of the other experiences that I've had. And at the same time, hearing from other members of the group what's working for them, what I don't have it all figured out. And so the value here is everybody's going through this similar experience in their own way, and what is working for them and what can we take from that, what experience can we share. And I also want to be, and I have been here and I have been in the group, super clear. Are we sharing experience or expertise? Do we have someone who can share their anecdotes? And we have a variety of people in the group. I have a former recruiter or a current recruiter, someone, but a recruiter who I worked with at HR. I have someone who has been a hiring manager way longer than I was and was my manager for a stint. I've got someone who got a job I was once applying to.
A really nice variety.
Yeah. And so to be able to go into that and say, okay, there's all sorts of advice out of there. Here's my experience. Here's what it was like for me as a hiring manager when someone asked me the quite confrontational question of, do you have any reservations? Right? Because that's hotly debated. There are a lot of job coaches, job search coaches out there who will say, always end with this. And then you look at folks who have a 20-year career in recruiting who say it makes hiring managers, like, it puts them on their heels and they don't love that feeling. Right? So I can talk about my experience with getting asked that. I can't tell you whether to ask it or not, but we can bring together different outlooks and different experiences and talk about those and create a space where we can say, here's what I've heard about it. I can point you to the experts who I trust, who talk about these things.
I'm really hearing different angles, different perspectives to the conversation, which creates a synergistic quality for the learning from it, right? Just adding all of the different pieces. And it's such a gift. And believe it or not, we are out of time.
Fast.
So I did go fast. Where can people reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I am Kelly E. Daniel on LinkedIn. In the URL, I also have my company, Kelly Daniel Media, which also has a page on LinkedIn. So that's how you know you've got me.
Wonderful. And absolutely reach out. She's been writing some wonderful content on her LinkedIn profile. There's so much great information that you can get from just joining the conversation with her there. Be sure to mention that you saw her on the show. And I would love to finish with one question for you, Kelly, if you're open to it.
Okay.
All right. What one habit or boundary has supported you to live and lead a more sustainable life?
So in general, it has been realizing how important my life outside of work is to me and not compromising on those things. So for me, it's being with my horse. So looking for jobs that are going to allow me to see him on more than just the weekend in terms of hours, location, whatnot. For the last 5 months, it's been seeing him every day and scheduling my interviews and my other work around the ability to take this time and make sure that I see him, take care of him, advance with him every day for 5 months. When will I have that again?
Such a treat, such a joy. Awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your brilliance. Please reach out to Kelly. Ask about the job search support squad. Just connect with her at whatever level because you will get all sorts of fabulous information. Kelly, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing everyone on the next live show. Thanks again and have a fabulous